Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising is an exceptional fighting game. It's a very fun, well-designed game that is immediately accessible to people newer to the genre. People like me who never really go this hard on a game. This one has won me over, and I have to do that typical YouTube thing where I'm a hardcore Smash player for many, many years, and this is the traditional 2D fighting game that has won me over. So I need to talk about it because I want to convince more people to try it. So I'm going to talk about all of the fantastic things that I think this game does, some really smart things that I would like to see more of in fighting games, as well as covering the negatives, because there's some bad stuff both in the gameplay as well as outside of it with how the content plan is and the regional pricing and a lot of other stuff. But when I said try it, I mean it for real, because you can play this game for free. It does have a free version which allows you to play ranked and versus matches and go into lobbies. The limitations are that you only have access to 4 of the 28 characters. 3 of the 4 you get are rotating every week, but you could hit master if you just grind that whole week. So I don't feel like it's a very stingy free-to-play model. It's kind of like an extended demo that lets you play the game with everyone and get as good as you want with it before you decide to purchase it. If at any point during all I have to say you're like, okay, I'm gonna try this, but I want to know those negatives, you have timestamps below for everything in the video. So hi, I'm Mug Thief. I make videos on YouTube about the things that I love, and if you like that idea, hit the like button and maybe even consider subscribing. With that said, and after 1,000 matches and over 70 hours, here's my big review of Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising. So first and foremost, we have to answer the question, why is Granblue Fantasy Versus a game that you should pay attention to if you're interested in fighting games? Why is it better, or how is it different than other fighting games, and what makes it so appropriate for newcomers? Well, first of all, I am not a fighting game savant. Like I said in the intro, I'm really hardcore on Smash. I've played a lot of Smash Brothers. I've played it competitively, but I'm not good at 2D fighting games. I'm decent at 3D ones, and I have loved my experience with Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising. So in a space, on YouTube, I think most of content creators that cover fighting games tend to be pros. If they are not professionals, they are at least in the top 1% of people who play fighting games when it comes to skill. And I think it's valuable for somebody like me, who is not that. I'd be lucky to be in the top 50% to give their opinion, especially in a genre that I think needs to grow. Having said that, it's technical commands and the design of the game. So to put this into perspective, for many years, fighting games have been trying to simplify their control schemes and to kind of take away the element of having to press fighting game inputs like the quarter circle or the dragon punch motion, and make it easier to do. And the biggest example of this, even if you don't really think of it that way, is Smash Brothers, with just having the B button and a direction for your special moves. And that is exactly what Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising does. You have basically the B button from Smash Brothers, a button that does your specials along with an arrow, along with a direction, and that will let you do different specials. The really important part about it, though, is that it does not limit your character in any way. So it's not like in Street Fighter 6 or other fighting games where using a modern control scheme or a simplified version is also going to change the moves you have available or make certain moves automatically go into certain combos. Nothing like that. You still have the complete freedom of controlling your character. It's just that those input-based specials can now be done with an easier input. You still have full control of your character, full access, and to get the most out of them, you still have to learn how to do everything. The game will not do anything for you. Using technical commands does come with a small damage penalty, but the truth is you will not notice it and it will not influence a match unless you're playing at like the top level. And at that point, if you are reaching for the highest level possible of the game, you'll learn how to do it with the normal inputs at that point. But I personally think that it's a great idea to remove that, because if so many fighting games have this obsession with simplifying those controls or changing how they work, it's obviously because people have issues with it. It is one of the bigger barriers of entry to the genre. So, no penalty or no real penalty for it, but here, you have access to your moveset in a way that is much easier to do. But it's not just that, it's that in general, it's a fairly simple fighting game. It's a 4-button game with a light, a medium, and a heavy, as well as a signature button, which is like the special ability that your character has. This is very similar to a game like Injustice. But this also means that the overall level of complexity and systems is not very high. Aside from your signature button, you have a light, medium, and heavy version of your poke, a jumping version, a dashing version, and a crouching version, because when you get close, similar to something like Smash Brothers, you have your 3-hit auto combo, which is a great way to either apply pressure or start off combos. But from almost every move, you want to go into a special, which you do with that very simplified technical command. There aren't really many strings to learn of things like a low light punch into a standing heavy into a low medium for doing a string of some sort. That's not this type of game. And the mechanics that are added on top of it are mostly managing your super meter, which is just a lot of meter all of the time. You're incentivized to use special moves, which also have very simplified inputs to pull off all of the time, along with the bravery point system, which is a system that allows you to extend combos with a guard crush mechanic that you can spend as a resource, or you can also spend that resource on canceling out an opponent's combo as long as you started off guarding it to reduce pressure and kind of return to a neutral state. And that is really the only two things, and you shouldn't be intimidated by them because you will learn them relatively quickly. There's not 17 different gauges with different ways to spend them. It's all very simplified. But that does lead to a fantastic learning curve. Because the game is so accessible, so easy to pick up and just start playing, you will very quickly start to realize how combos actually work, and the game does a really good job within its little character tutorials of explaining it as well. But you will play other people, you will see what they do, and you will very easily understand what it is they're doing and why it works, and you will be able to replicate it very easily because there is no real execution barrier. That means that from the start, you're having fun, you're starting to learn very quickly, and because you're learning, improving, and doing new stuff that is successful, you feel good and want to keep playing. Now, all of this is exclusively talking about the mechanics in the game, but what actually makes it fun? Why would you want to play the game even if it's just approachable? Just being something that you can play without having to break your head around it doesn't mean that it's worth playing, but luckily, Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising is just a ton of fun. The end result of these simplified mechanics and the more simple fighting system is that you have so much freedom to get into the game, understand what's really fun about fighting games and outplaying your opponent, doing hard reads, getting good at doing footsies and understanding your character, and then beating your opponent as you improve. You get faster into that, but most importantly, you get into it with one of the best rosters I've ever seen in a fighting game. Now, I don't know if this is the same for other people, but in fighting games, I tend to either really like one or two characters, or more or less like a lot of them, but never really resonate with any specific one. Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising is the first fighting game where I think I dislike maybe one, and that's a maybe. I think all 28 of the characters that are in this game are very well designed and very fun to play. The balancing is a different thing, we'll talk about that later, but when it comes to actually being fun, all of them are designed in a way that has made me fall in love with playstyles I have never enjoyed. I think part of it is because this is a refinement, this is a sequel, so it's the second pass at a lot of these characters, and they've done a good job at doubling down on their identity, as well as having more simplified mechanics means that any sort of complexity that is added is normally only and exclusively to bolster the identity of those characters. The more difficult ones that require more precise controls or better spacing or better understanding of other things is never just because they are more complicated. It's always in the service of them filling in the role in the roster. Instead of finding my main and just grinding to masters in this game, I decided to play through the entire cast in ranked all the way up to A rank, which is, decent. Like I said, I'm not a fighting game genius or anything, but what I kept finding out is that every time I would play a new character, I would find things that I would love about them. I don't dislike playing as basically anyone in this game. From Lancelot, which is a dashing mix-up master focused a lot on footsies, to Siu, which is another mix-up master but completely focused on pressure instead of doing as many footsies. You have a lot of different zoning type characters, but they all have very different game plans. Some of them exclusively zone and want to eliminate pressure and return to neutral with their tools. Others want to set up traps. Others want to do a mix of it. Even the Shotos are very well separated, with some of them being more aggressive, some of them being more defensive. That's the expected thing to see, but even adding different properties to their dashes, their projectiles, and some of their other special moves, like giving one of them a parry, completely changes the game plan on each of the characters. And because the game is simple to understand, it's simple to see what their game plan is and how specifically tailored to that game plan each of their movesets is, so that you understand it, you use it, you win, and you enjoy it. And like I said, because there's really no execution barrier, once you understand what a character is meant to do and get familiar with the buttons, you really accelerate quickly into being able to do their game plan without feeling frustrated by if you're pressing the right inputs or not. And that helps you fall in love with each of these very well-designed characters and with the overall idea of just playing a fighting game, but, you know, a little bit more seriously. And that is what matters at the end of the day, that you resonate with what you're doing, you understand what you're supposed to do, you express your skill while doing it, and come out rewarded at the other side. That is how you create an addictive gameplay loop. And because the game is also beautiful to look at, some people would say it's the best looking Arc System game, but I don't agree. I think Strive looks better just because I prefer it stylistically, okay? And DNF Duel looks gorgeous in motion, but I understand this is a different art style and some people love the way it looks, and I do really, really like how it looks. It also sounds fantastic, and that's important because the consistent audio-visual feedback of just playing the game is really cool. The designs of the characters are also very cool, at least to me, and I haven't played the gacha game, so I don't know if they changed it or something, but I like them. And all of that feeds into that core idea of I play the game, I get better, I enjoy the process of getting better, I get really excited, really tense when playing my matches and when I win. And that keeps me playing longer. It also helps that there's a good deal of progression, at least for what a fighting game normally offers. So as you consistently play with a character, you will level them up and obtain rewards, specifically different color customization options and weapon skins, with a mastery weapon skin available at max level, which is called a prismatic skin, and they all look really flashy to kind of show off and tell your opponents, hey, I've put in the time playing this character. Now, if this all sounds great to you, I have very good news. 2 good news to share with you specifically. The first one is that this game is out for $50, which I think is it's a lower price than normal, but it's a very complete package. Not only do you get all 28 of the playable characters, but you get a ton of different stages, some incredible music, a pretty robust story mode that I haven't gone all the way through, but from what I've seen, it's pretty good. It's not going to set the world on fire, but it is entertaining. You get a secondary kind of party mode called Granblue, which is basically Fall Guys, if you care about that sort of stuff. But it is a pretty big package with a lot of stuff to play and cover in the game. And I think the reduced price helps. But if you're not sure if the game is going to be for you, like I said before, you don't need to pay first. You can just play the free-to-play version, which is really a very good deal for the price of free. So in the free-to-play version, you have access to 4 characters, 3 of them are rotating, but there's really very little limitations. You get a small piece of the story mode if you wanted to play that. I believe you can play Granblue as well, and with the characters that you have access to, you can play in your normal lobbies, in your casual matches, and in ranked. You could reach master rank as a free-to-play. I have seen people with 700, 800 matches played, and they are free-to-play players because they have a little badge. So you can find out if you want the game and if you want to give them money and if you want to get the full game, or you can just play free to play. And I think it's kind of a shame that a game that has that offering isn't like popping off more. I think it should be more popular. The combination of the accessibility that it has, how fun it is, how good of a game it is, and having a free-to-play version, to me feels like this should be way bigger than I think it is. So that's why I'm making this video. Now, the negative part about that is that there's been some issues with regional pricing. I'm not sure why Cygames is doing this. I assume it's to avoid key reselling or something like that, or people VPNing to other places and buying it for cheap. But they screwed up on the regional pricing, and in some areas, the game, even though it does have regional pricing, it's just way too high for how the economy of those countries and that currency works. And that's very unfortunate because, like I said, I just want more people to play fighting games. That's what this genre needs. But if you're going to gatekeep on the price like this, it makes it really hard for that to happen. I don't know why they made this decision, but at the end of the day, it's something that harms the player base and the game, and that makes me very sad. So if you're in one of those regions, well, you can just play free-to-play or wait for it to go on sale, or maybe something will change. Hopefully, something will change down the line. The other controversy there has been outside of the actual game has been the Deluxe Season Pass, which is out there for $50. You can also get the Deluxe Season Pass by paying $75 for the game up front with the Deluxe Edition. But this has been a miscommunication and a very unfortunate one that makes it look very scummy. I normally side with the best in people, so I'm going to assume it's just miscommunication and not them trying to trick people into spending more than they should, because if you click on the Deluxe Season Pass in Steam, in the description it will tell you that this is not the normal version, this is a more expensive one, and that the normal version will be coming out when Season 1 launches. So we assume that'll cost anywhere between $25 to $35. I would assume $35 because that's how the world works now. And that Season Pass comes with 6 new characters and a bunch of other content they've announced, including, of course, 2B from Nier Automata. So that's really exciting. But yes, that pricing has led to some controversy. At least they're not charging you $100 for costumes like Street Fighter 6. So hey, I'm okay with it. This is the standard model. You're paying for the new characters. I think it's fine, and it's 6 characters for a season pass, which is pretty damn good. Now, there are some issues within the game itself, and we will have to wait and see what happens with balancing patches as we reach Season 1. But right now, there are some characters that are just completely bananas. And I do think that because power levels in the game are relatively high, mostly everybody is viable, and you see all sorts of characters in the highest ranks being played and finding success, no matter who they are. Even the people that universally agree on some low tiers, those characters are seeing success, and even seeing success in tournaments. So, like always, tier lists just don't matter at all. Just play what you like. But it is true that you will find characters that will just do things that you thought were impossible, and it's just that they have access to a little bit too many tools and too many things. So yeah, you're going to encounter some Zetas and Lancelots and Niers that are going to just destroy you in ways that you didn't expect. But hey, maybe those things will get balanced out, and I think these things are to be expected in fighting games, and I really don't think any character here is just not viable. Again, not an expert, but I did some research, and it seems that the community overall agrees with that sentiment. But yes, you will find some unfortunate things. There are things within the gameplay systems of this game that are not going to be for everyone, and that includes the fact that there's universal mechanics in this game like Dashing Light Attack, or 66L as it's frequently called, that are always plus on block, and that leads to this weird footsies game where people are just trying to get their first dash attack in to immediately get a loop of guarding into the corner, which then leads to corner pressure, and this is a game where you will spend a lot of time in the corner and suffering for it, and you are going to have to get good at defense. Early on, you're just going to be brawling it out with other people who are newer to the game, but as soon as really you get into what the game is, there's a lot of just pressuring people into corners, and that can be very unfun if you are new and you get matched against somebody that knows what they're doing, because you're just going to not be able to move in a corner for an entire match. But I promise that once you learn it, it can still be annoying, but there's a lot of fun to still be had. I do hope that they I would be fine if they got rid of the dashing light maybe make it just less plus. I don't know. But there's some stuff in this game that can be frustrating, but that happens with every fighting game. I think that the fact that it's so approachable that most people can reach the point where you get into the real fighting game where some of the more annoying things can pop up is a testament to how good and how fun this game is compared to others where most people would never even reach that point because you're not enticed into it or you're too overwhelmed to even touch ranked. So overall, Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising is an incredible game. It's in my top 10 games of the year, and this last year that is just about to finish has been one of the best for games, and I've loved so many games, and I didn't expect that this fighting game right at the end of it was going to make it into that list. So I strongly recommend it. And if you want more weird videos on whatever I like, then go ahead and subscribe to this channel. I will be covering more fighting games because there's something that I really like and I'm very interested in, so you can expect some Tekken 8 coverage as well as some Undernight coverage coming up very soon in January if you're into the fighting games part of things, and if you just like video games in general and you like what I have to say about them, how I think about them, or how I talk about them. I do that a lot here, so make sure to stick around. I've been Mug Thief. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again very soon.